Hi there, folks. Jason Kenney here in Calgary. I just wanted to respond to some comments from Prime Minister Trudeau, who was in Edmonton earlier today, during which he said that, quotes, conservative politicians are choosing to play a high degree of politics, including bringing up threats to national unity, which we categorically reject, unquote. So the Prime Minister, this is in response to comments that I made yesterday in Saskatoon at the Council of the Federation. I had been asked if I agreed with Premier Scott Moe of Saskatchewan that national unity has been impaired in recent years by policies coming from Ottawa. And I said that I did agree that Albertans are proud Canadians, are proud of the role that we have played as major contributors to the rest of the country throughout Canada's modern history, but are increasingly frustrated with and alienated from Ottawa and the Federation, because it seems that even though we pay the freight within the Federation through $20 billion net contribution every year, over $600 billion since about 1960, even though we are huge contributors, everywhere we turn, we seem to be blocked in and pinned down. So I said that indeed there is a high degree of frustration, and Albertans are simply saying that if some parts of the country won't accept our energy to get a fair price for it through pipelines, then why are they willing to accept the wealth that is generated from that energy? So in response, today Prime Minister Trudeau has said that I am, quotes, bringing up threats to national unity. He could not be more wrong. In fact, he's got this exactly backwards. It's the Prime Minister's government whose policies have impaired national unity. And that really isn't an opinion. This is demonstrated in poll after poll, that since Prime Minister Trudeau took office 4 years ago, we have seen a huge increase in every measurement of Western and particularly Alberta alienation and frustration with how the country is working. To give you one example, in February of this year, the Angus Reid organization found that 50% of Albertans surveyed said that they would consider seceding, that is separating from the Canadian Federation. And that number was up massively, basically having doubled in recent years. Similarly, in this spring, the CBC conducted a survey of Albertans, which found that 60% said that whoever is in charge of the federal government, they feel that other parts of Canada will always be looked after first. 74% said they found the equalization formula unfair. And this spring, an Environics survey found that 60% of Albertans saying that, quotes, we get so few benefits, we might as well go our own way, quote unquote. That number having doubled just since 2010. And so survey after, and there's other surveys that demonstrate the same thing, that since Prime Minister Trudeau came to office, there has been a massive increase in this kind of sentiment in Alberta, not created by folks like me who are concerned by this trend, but rather by the Prime Minister's policies, like, for example, his vetoing of the approved Northern Gateway pipeline as soon as he came to office, and then his enshrining that policy in the tanker ban, Bill C-48, his killing of the Energy East pipeline, and then his enshrining that policy in law through his No More Pipelines Bill C-69, his surrender to a presidential veto on the Keystone XL pipeline, his bungling of the Trans Mountain expansion, which led to that company leaving the country, his imposition of a carbon tax on Alberta, his threatened imposition, which simply means leading normal lives becomes more expensive in this province, and of his whole attitude of saying he wants to phase out the oil sands. This notion that Alberta should be told to shut up and pay the bills while we cannot develop the resources that help us to generate the wealth that pays the bills. It's this paradox, this attitude from Prime Minister Trudeau and his government that has caused such deep frustration, not just felt in Alberta, but certainly by so many of our friends in Saskatchewan. I do believe, as I said in Saskatoon yesterday, that the vast majority of Albertans are extremely proud Canadians. I certainly am. And I will never give up on Canada. But I must say, on behalf of Albertans, And I said this to Prime Minister Trudeau the day after our provincial election here on April 16th. I said it to him in Ottawa 3 days after having been sworn in as Premier, that his first role, his most important responsibility as a Prime Minister, is to ensure the unity of this country. And when you have a region that has paid disproportionately the bills in the Federation, feeling such a profound sense of unfairness, I said to him, Prime Minister, you have to take this seriously. And the way you can demonstrate that commitment to national unity is by listening to the voices of Albertans, of Saskatchewan, of Western Canada, and abandoning bills and policies that attack our prosperity, like Bills C-48 and C-69. But instead, all we're getting is confrontation from that government. It's, for Mr. Trudeau, it seems to be Ottawa's way or the highway. Well, Albertans want a different way. They want a way where we have a national government that actually respects this province. Now, here's the good news. As we demonstrated here in Calgary, welcoming several premiers who represent a majority of the Canadian population this Monday, as we demonstrated with agreement from 12 of the 13 Canadian premiers in Saskatoon this week, we have allies for ideas like constructing pipelines for energy and economic corridors across the country. And we have a growing number of allies standing with us on the carbon tax. We had 9 of 10 provinces stand with us against Mr. Trudeau's Bill C-69. So I don't want Albertans to conclude that we are without friends or allies in the Federation. We have them. We've been strengthening those alliances. We just call upon Mr. Trudeau to stop the policies that are so deeply damaging this province's vital economic interests, because a strong and united Canada needs a strong and prosperous Alberta.